Hello and welcome to Shifting Lanes Garage. My name's Chad. With me, as always, is Greg, and we have our first reoccurring guest, Elliott Alvis, is back on the show. Thank you so much for joining us again, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me back. I didn't know I was the first recurring guest. That's a big deal.
That's right. Yeah.
And
Doing well as well. And yes, thank you, Elliot, for being back on. Appreciate it. Last time we chatted with you, we chatted more about your background and things like that. But this time, you're here as Elliot for being part of the crew, essentially. And we're going to
fine with me.
cars, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Can't wait.
Yeah, we got a lot of interesting stuff for you guys. We're probably going to kick things off with some newsy style news style stuff. There we go.
Newsy style. We could sing. You know.
I don't know if people want to hear that. I've been told I'm quite tone deaf. We're going to kick it off with some news, possibly a mildly unhinged rant from myself, depending on where things lead, and then the bulk of the show, as most of our reoccurring viewers know, Greg is in the sports car market, or sporty fun car market, and Elliot has some expertise on different types of vehicles and more the market. And hey, if Greg's going to get a car, let's try to get one that appreciates, because at the end of the day, we're a business and we like money.
There you go.
And then he threw in a couple of his personal favorites in there. Greg has absolutely no idea about the list. We're going to get his raw reaction, which I think is going to be fun. And then we can kind of go from there. And once again, because I use this software to record stuff, I had the desktop audio on, and everybody was echoing. So yay.
Are we better now? Because I turned myself down.
No, it's literally.
No, it wasn't you.
It's literally my end. Way too long of a story boiled down into a few sentences. I use the OBS software to screen record and stuff like that, so I have the desktop audio on. Well, also with the desktop audio is Skype. So,
Gotcha.
It's also a recurring joke that I break things technologically. So I'm very excited to see Chad not having a good time with it. It's warming my soul just a little bit today in this cold garage. You got to be honest.
I mean,
everyone hurts.
For the most part, it is Greg's fault. But in any rate,
it pretty much always is.
But again, just to repeat to those joining, we have Elliot joining the show again, and I think this is as good an opportunity as any. We'll kind of kickstart with some news. Our resident news expert, anchor / automotive Walter Cronkite, Greg, what do you got for us?
This is Walter Cronkite. First off, actually, let's plug Elliot really quick. Where can we find you, good sir? Because for those that don't know, Elliot is a large YouTuber with a really good following, so he should be plugging his stuff, and we should be all following him as we do here. So you should too. So listen up.
Yes, thank you. That was a great intro, Greg. So I need that kind of hype every time. I'm primarily on YouTube. It's just my name, Elliott Alvis. You can pretty much ham fist that in there, Elliott Alvis, whatever. Something will come up. You'll accidentally find me on YouTube. Everywhere else, I do post sporadically on Instagram. That's just alvis.elliott. Obviously, mostly car stuff, but a few random things, life updates and whatnot. And then I have a really fun Facebook group just called Elliott Alvis Prius Posting, and it's like car memes and cat memes and you name it. It's a really wacky and wonderful place to be if you like cars and or humor. So check out all those, but primarily my main gig is the YouTube thing.
And I love that it's Elliott Alvis Prius Posting, because one of the first things you did was Prius videos. So
right.
I like that it's Doug has his thing of like Doug Cork posting, and then you have your Prius posting. It's just
no matter what I do, it's still a Prius thing. I'm like, man, you drive a Ferrari or whatever. They're like, yeah, what? It's just whatever.
Yeah, but you're driving a Koenigsegg today. I mean, but yeah, it's Prius posting. Shut up.
Yeah, I love it though. I love my people.
Cool. Yeah. So please go follow Elliot wherever good things are sold, i.e., Facebook and Instagram and YouTube.
Yes.
Have you been on Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah. I mean,
Myself?
there
Oh,
are
I thought you meant
things
have I
sold
listed
there.
myself on Facebook Marketplace, and I haven't thought about doing that yet. But the
Well,
night
I
is
mean, if
young.
everything goes down the tubes, you always can.
Well,
I know. That's what I'm saying. I guess I'll leave it in there as an option.
I mean, you did try to make us sign that NDA about your soon-to-be OnlyFans, so I mean, I don't know.
Only Priuses? Is that what it's gonna be?
Only Priuses. Yeah, it's just gonna be
Yeah.
it's gonna be the hottest Prius content on the internet. Let's just say
Yes.
that.
Hopefully, it means it's on fire.
So hot. Tagline: so hot, so hybrid.
So hybrid, yes.
Yes. But yes. So thank you for joining as always. And if you're listening to us on this podcast, thank you so much. And you guys are awesome. So yes, go follow Elliott where you can. And with that said, let's get into some news because I want to get your guys' take on a couple of things. I have two to lead off, and then Chad, I believe you have a couple as well.
Yes, I do.
So first and foremost, the price of EVs are dropping like crazy across the board. We saw that Tesla had in the last year dropped their pricing, some of them like $20, $30, $40,000 across like Model S, Model Y, Model 3 even got a big decrease. However, there are many other EVs to be had out there, and one of them is Polestar, which I of course love because I have a Polestar, and the design is just wonderful. I think they're really great looking cars. But now you can get a Polestar 2 for the price of, drumroll, a Honda Accord, which is pretty insane.
That's pretty appealing.
EVs at one point were almost double the price of regular cars, and now you can get one for the price of a normal four-door sedan. I think that's a very good step forward because that's one of the huge pain points of EVs is they're crazy expensive. So now that they're coming down, would you guys potentially consider one if they're priced similarly to an ICE?
I mean, I for sure would. I mean, I already kind of wanted one even when they were overpriced. But this is kind of a twofold thing. One, it's great for the masses because it's going to increase the adoption rate, a lot faster. And the more people that have them, the more it gets normal, the more people aren't freaked out by them anymore. I mean, I'm all for having an EV as a multi-car solution. I mean, you can't have just an EV, really. I mean, you kind of need an ICE car still, no matter what. But for me, I have a very short commute, and my threshold of flying to driving distance is like 5 hours. Anything more than that, I'll try to fly, and anything less than that, I could probably make it an EV. So it's really not impossible of a thing anymore. It used to be there were too many downsides and not enough upsides. But I mean, now if you mix in the fact that the price is reasonable,
yeah,
what are you waiting for? Especially on a good one like a Polestar. It's not some Chinese startup brand. It's pretty proven.
Yeah. What was the one that Top Gear did a long time ago? It was like Xiangyang 79825Q-384, whatever the hell it was. It was some crazy name, crazy number. That won't be a thing. now that we have actual prices. Chad, what about you? I knew that was going to be the answer before I even asked it.
I mean, here's the deal. Am I anti-EV? No. I'm pretty different from most. Like, I'm not driving a ton. So you would think that, like, hey, an EV as a second car makes sense. But for me, that's like, okay, if I'm not driving a ton, might as well I'm not using a lot of gas in my supercharged Mustang. So it's like,
I mean, I get it. The miles per gallon factor is real.
And but I'll say this: if you guys are in a slightly different situation from a life perspective, family perspective, etc., with Greg with the wife and kids, etc., to where second vehicle wise, this makes a crap ton of sense. I mean, it makes a crap ton of sense for, like, if I was in your situation, Greg, I'd absolutely be thinking about it because then, I could. It may seem crazy with the level of the Mustang and what it is, but there are some more extreme level mods that I've been like, nah, I still have to drive it, right? Like, but it's so like, but if I had a second,
like welding your diff.
But then you get a new daily.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Well, okay, number one, that Ford 8.8 limited slip differential is never going anywhere until I get close to 2,000 horsepower. That's number one.
Yeah.
I might change the ratio, but no. And number two, you laugh at straight cut gears, but the gears in my transmission are closer to straight cut than a traditional. So like it's not less aggressive synchros and stuff. And that's why like in certain situations, you really have to be not necessarily precise, but assertive when you're, especially when the transmission's kind of, I don't want to say cold, but early, and that sort of thing. So.
But you're right. You're right. For someone like me, and we've talked about this actually on stream. And quite honestly, like I'm considering maybe selling this over the next year or two. I love the car very much, but I'm a car person and I want to experience more cars. So maybe sell this, get a 4Runner, or get an EV, and then have a separate car to do fun stuff with, which is a topic we'll talk about in a little bit, like sports car, via the business. So like that's another like option. But like for someone like me, I go to the grocery store, I pick up my kids, I don't do long trips. An EV makes perfect sense for that use case. So
same.
A Polestar 2, like a Polestar 2, that's the price of an Accord. I mean, really good design, looks excellent overall. Is comfortable. I've sat in one. I've been driven in one. And price is good. Has decent range. Going to be NACS compatible with an adapter soon, which is going to be the new standard across the board, which is the Tesla version. I mean, there's not a lot to not like there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I will say about this, just I was looking at it, is that there's something really weird. So if you look at this first one and I'll list it out, but used 2022 Polestar 2, 249 EV mile range. Then the next one, 233 EV mile range. The next one, 270, 249, 233. Like, I don't know. Maybe, I mean, Greg, we'll look into this a little more. I don't know. Is that like, hey, the battery's degraded to where the range is this? Or is that like, are they literally selling EV range by like a factor of 16 miles?
It's probably a little bit of both, honestly.
Yeah.
It also might not knowing. And it's like, some of these used car dealerships, if they're, a Toyota dealership or whatever, they don't have one of these. They charged it up to full and they looked at what it said the estimated range was and typed that in. That is what I would guess is happening.
Exactly
without knowing the factory things, which is why it's like, well, it's not that big of a difference. But when you get down to the nitty gritty like that, I mean, first of all, you are in a world of trouble if you have 240 miles of range and you are on mile 230. It is not good. You do not want to be in that position.
No.
But it's like that with cars too. I mean, I can get 350 miles out of this tank, and it's like, yeah, with your fuel pump burning up because it's scavenging nothing by doing that. I don't know. There's pluses and minuses of that, but I think from those listings, that's just used car dealerships typing in whatever they saw the readout to be.
Yeah, that's my guess. My guess is it's twofold. It has to do with, one, exactly what Elliott just said, and two, consumers are dumb. Honestly, they probably looked up something quickly online, put it on there, and no one questions it because EVs are new. Most people don't know about them, and consumers are stupid. They don't look up things. They just take, especially car consumers. Like if you think about just your normal, basic crossover buyer, like they don't care. They're like, it's comfy, it's a good deal, it's got space. The end. Like I don't care past that. I'd say 80, probably 70 to 80% of people buy cars like that, which is a shame. They should.
Well, yeah.
It's the second most expensive purchase you'll probably ever make in your entire life, bar none. And they just don't really know much about cars, which stinks. But that's the reality. So it's probably more what Elliott said, a little bit less what I said, but there is probably some truth to that as well.
Definitely, though. I mean, sometimes you have to remember that not everybody likes cars. In fact, most people don't like cars the way we do.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I forget because I automatically know, if you give me a scenario or a kind of car, I'm like, bam, I've got an answer for you. But the normal person, a realtor friend of mine, she just goes, well, I'm looking for an SUV. And that's where she stopped. And I'm like, okay, there's only like a million different kinds of that.
You're going to have to be more specific.
And it's like, but then for her, she was like, well, this is overwhelming. And I'm like, she just like I'm pretty sure just Googled reliable SUV. And I mean, can you imagine the onslaught of stuff that you would get if you just had no idea?
Honda
and Googled
CRV.
that?
The answer to that question
Yeah.
is Honda CRV.
Pretty much.
Correct.
That was because it's funny. Like,
Except for that fuel seepage issue.
I have an acquaintance that I knew from my time working at the golf club, and he's like, I'm looking for a new SUV, blah blah blah. I helped him when he was looking at like sedans and stuff. I mean, he didn't listen to me, but he apparently appreciated the help. And it's like, I don't know what this, that. We were looking at that. I just like Honda CRV. If you're worried about gas mileage, get the hybrid. Like, and he's like,
Boom.
Like,
Simple answer.
I go, it's not the best selling car in New Jersey for no reason.
My only other story like that personally, I mean, I've got a million of them, but my ex had asked me one time we were getting her new car, and she's like, the only things I wanted to have are I wanted to have air conditioning, power locks, power steering, like leather, and then like one other like really basic thing, and like a defroster. And I'm like, you narrowed it down none. I don't even think you can get a car without half of that stuff.
That's every car since
It's
1981.
like, you listed power locks and air conditioning as must-haves? I was like, I don't
What
know
have you
to do with
The
that.
question with that is, what are you driving now? Like, or is that like
She had a very early Saturn that was not good. Now
Oh,
Saturns
okay,
are great,
well.
but I mean, so those were going to be luxury features. I don't blame her. I kind of forgot where she was coming from. I'm like, you're not helping narrowing it down. Be like, wipers.
Yeah.
not an early
windshield.
Saturn? So the customer wants a
Wipers,
windscreen, do they?
headlights.
Yeah, and you're like, okay.
Are you flexible on number of tires? It has air conditioning, but only 3 functional wheels. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we'll end this one with, I think with this sort of pricing and seeing this kind of come down, which is, I'll be blatantly honest, kind of a shock because Polestar,
Yeah.
kind of a lot of the Volvo characteristics carry over, or priorities, or design theory or aesthetic carry over with them. So it's going to be a nice place to be. It's going to be, but it's like, it's that, you know, if it were, it's a not as painful investment into seeing if you like EVs as opposed to getting something new that's 2-3 times the price, or you were priced out of a decent EV prior to this. So it's a good way to kind of get into it. We'll just say it's the starter drug for EV ownership, and
Yes.
I like that.
The gateway.
it's the gateway drug. There you go.
Yeah, I'll leave it at this. Is Polestar has lost over 80% of its market value since it went IPO, which is pretty insane. So it could be a bit of a market issue, with the market sort of having a knee-jerk reaction to certain things. Though when that sort of news comes out, prices don't just immediately plummet. It's not like gasoline, so it's not like oil barrels. It doesn't happen. But with that said, you know, people may start having a little bit of reservations about Polestar, which quite frankly should never have been a brand as it is. It should have been just part of Volvo, period. Like just
Right.
Volvo EV. That's what it should have been.
Well, that's what it was bold to go. Most people
Yeah.
don't know about this, and they're making electric cars, so it just makes people
Right.
go, oh, geez.
Exactly. So
Right.
they should have kept Polestar as their performance tuner in-house brand and doing fun stuff, and then making EVs, and then you could do Polestar electrified or Polestar tuned. Like that's a better marketing exercise as far as I'm concerned. Being a marketer like that makes
Couldn't agree more.
Right. You hurt the
But-
Volvo attachment by making its own brand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but you mentioned one of you guys mentioned hybrid. And that's a good segue into the next thing because there is a new 4Runner coming out, and that is a big deal because it's the last Toyota to get redesigned from the previous generation of Toyota. It has been a
holdout.
Its 5th generation as a whole. Yeah, been in its 5th generation since 2009, so it's old. It's a great vehicle. They're awesome, and I want one so badly. But we're getting a new one. Now, there is some new news that our wonderful co-founder Hanson just put out on all of our social channels. Go subscribe. To the tune of, well, Car and Driver spotted the new one testing out in Michigan. So we have some spy shots, which is very cool. And it answered a couple of questions. One, we're actually getting a new 4Runner, which is wonderful. Although I love the 5th gen because it looks cool and it's burly and it's great. And Chad and I drove one actually to go to a NASCAR race back in the day with Toyota, which was a lot of fun.
Nice.
So great trucks. But I mean, we have a new Tacoma. It has a hybrid option. So will we get a 4Runner with a potential hybrid engine? And are you guys excited for a new 4Runner? Because I know I am, because the new Tacoma looks great.
So
Chad, you can take you can take this one.
yeah, no worries. No, so when you first said like powertrain, like Tacoma has a hybrid, so 4Runner would get a hybrid. But Toyota also has a history of not, like, it's the same platform, 4Runner, Tacoma. In fact, the 4Runner got its start because a RV, like a maker of RVs, was approached by a dealer, I forget where, and said, "Hey, what if we just put a back on the half of these pickup trucks and put some extra seats in them?" And that's kind of how the 4Runner was born. It wasn't a Toyota thing.
Yeah.
It was a dealer kind of seeing an opportunity, and then obviously Toyota ran with it. But I forget, I think it's like 06, 07, right around that time frame, where you could get the 4.7 liter V8 in the 4Runner with four-wheel drive, but you couldn't get it in the Tacoma, right? And now part of me thinks that's because like they were using the 4.7 in the it just escaped me, the full-size pickup truck.
Tundra,
there it is. Thank you.
That other one they made.
It was like it was right here, and then as soon as I went to say it, it was like, yeah, I'll see you later. But so part of me thinks like maybe it'll be in there, maybe it won't. I mean, let's face it, more people who are interested in fuel economy and hybridization are going to want the SUV than say the pickup truck. But I mean, let me put it this way: I love, like Greg said, I love the 4Runner. I really, if I could make a project out of it, it would be my sort of SUV of choice, just because. I mean, when something's around for that long, they're pretty gosh darn well sorted. So, and of course, being me, I'd want to mod it and take away from that. But they're just great vehicles. They're robust. They're reliable. Okay, so they might not be the most efficient things in the world, which is probably what led to the redesign and more than likely to hybridization. But they're just great vehicles. And it's kind of a legacy thing, right? Like the 4Runner is the SUVs in a similar way to the Taco being small pickup trucks. It's like just American enough in its overall design to appeal to us, but still having that Japanese engineering behind it.
I think that's well said. I mean, the only thing I have to add to this is the question is if the hybridization is going to be, tough crap, that's how you get it, or if it's going to be an option. Like if they still offer a 6-cylinder, if they offer the hybrid, is it going to be the entry-level model? Or if they're going to try to really push adoption, they might make it the slightly more powerful version or more capable off-road version, and really push people to get the hybrid portion. I mean, which can be good, can be bad, but that would be my interest in that, of how they're going to do it. If it's just that's it's a hybrid now, or if it's one of 2 powertrain options. And like I said, if they want to really pick up some adoption on that, they have to make it, the TRD Pro version have to be, a hybrid only, or something like that, and just kind of tout that. Well, it's better for crawling with the electric torque down low, and all that stuff. I mean, they could do it really well, and obviously Toyota's been a forerunner in the hybrid scene for a long time. But I'm excited to see how it goes.
That was an excellent slip of the tongue, by the way. That worked out
It's
very
totally
nicely,
unintentional, but I'm fine with it.
Toyota's been a front runner for all the
front runner.
I just brought it up on my screen. The 24 Tacoma, which is the redesigned one. So we have 3 different options: an SR5, a TRD off-road, and a TRD Pro. SR5, you get a 2.4 liter turbo 4-cylinder engine. Same exact thing for the TRD off-road. And you just also get a double cab potential there. And then the TRD Pro also double cab, but that's where the hybrid lives. Hybrid 2.4 liter turbo 4-cylinder engine, automatic. So yeah, it looks like the 6 is gone. So if you want a 6-cylinder, that will probably last until the end of time. Yes, act quickly and get a 5th gen, because they're probably going to get rid of it in full, unless there's some sort of coup over at Toyota that says, no, we must keep the 6 for the 4Runner. Screw the Tacoma. It's got to live on, which is hugely doubtful. Then I would recommend getting one now while you can.
And I saw in the chat, Jake, 100% Jake made a good point that maybe a hybrid 4Runner could succeed where the Jeep 4xe has kind of let a lot of people down.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
very
really
true.
could be cool because obviously people were intrigued. I know I was when that came out. So if Toyota can do
Yeah.
it better, then let's do it.
Yeah, and they're having problems with that. There was a recall last year, I believe, that some of them were catching fire.
Well, that's
No,
a Stellantis thing.
Yeah, just overall, yeah, I think it's Stellantis. Like, yes, don't park near your own domicile because big flame bad.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but I think they're also having a lot of reliability issues. But that's just a Jeep thing overall, and also
Again,
Stellantis
yeah,
thing
I was
overall.
like,
Either way,
an unreliable Jeep. Oh, it's crazy.
yeah, I know. Say it ain't so. But that's a great point, for those shoppers that are going to potentially look for hybrid or plug-in hybrid options, either pure hybrid or plug-in hybrid. This is going to be the off-roader potentially of choice, and more than likely, just given history, obviously, the more reliable choice too.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I'm interested. The new Tacoma looks great, and I can't wait to see what the 4Runner looks like. I will be sad to see the 5th gen go. I think it's the best looking one they've ever made. Chad, you're muted.
Smooth.
Yeah,
He's the showrunner of this operation.
Listen, the command and control and
technological difficulties.
it's not. This is the technological difficulty. Is the fleshy bit between my ears. No, and I mean, I'm sure an LS will fit in it to please Doug. But at any rate,
yes.
But at any rate, so I wanted to touch on a couple things. Number one, we just had the new trailer for the next Grand Tour
yes.
special called Sand Job, and the basic premise, as I understand it, is they're basically
Such a good.
Yeah, and the basic
they are really good at that. I gotta give it to them. There's just every title is hot take. I've actually never watched any of the Grand Tour specials. I need to watch them because I loved all the Top Gear specials, so I need to watch them. However, I know of all of them. Obviously, the titling is just top tier. It's so good. It's like they were writers or something at one point.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing though. They could have done it in a series, right? Because they had what was one of the first one was Seamen.
Yeah.
So they could have done Sand Job leading to Seaman, like.
Yeah.
But in any rate, the 12-year-old in all of us is highly amused. But the basic premise behind it is that they're replicating the old Paris-Dakar route. If anybody who's watching doesn't know, Paris-Dakar literally used to be starting in Paris and go through God only knows how much of northern Africa. It was this big off-road race. You had to navigate things from like your traditional off-roaders to bikes to quads to even like massive semi-box trucks.
Oh, those were the coolest. I loved watching that on like Speed Vision.
Yeah, back in the
when I was
day.
a kid. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like the Baja
so
1000
cool.
on like complete steroids. And it was just there's a documentary. I think it's on Amazon at the moment, but don't quote me on that. But you can probably Google it. It's called Madness in the Desert. It's done by the same people that did like F1 The Killer Years. They did one on Group B rallying, and then they did one on Madness in the Desert. It's an absolutely fascinating watch because like people were getting lost and like people were like it was like an adventure race where like if you stray too far off you might die. I think like the nephew or the son of like the Queen of England or something like that, or a monarch of some kind, got lost, and it was headline news for like 3 weeks until they found him. It was an insane race, but in the recent climate, they were driving through a lot of areas where the West wasn't really welcome. Is the best.
It's a good way of saying
the
it.
best way I can describe that.
Diplomatically well done, Chad.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So
Very nice.
they basically moved it to like South America. But the Grand Tour guys are going to go and kind of do the old route, and in the trailer they even say like this is a red country, which means like hey, it's not safe to travel through here, and they're doing it in a Jaguar F-Type, a Aston Martin, I think DB.
It looks like a Vantage
or DB9. I couldn't really tell because they did their typical make it for what the challenge is, and a Maserati. And personally, I look at it and I go, this, because lately with a lot of their specials, like things have gotten too modified or it's been too ridiculous almost in a sense. But this seems to be kind of getting back to like roots or what have you. And it looks pretty dang interesting. One, the cars are interesting, and two, I kind of dig the plan behind it. But what did you guys? Did you guys get one? Did you guys get a chance to check it out? And two, thoughts?
I did watch the trailer, and yeah, I was excited. It's like, I just couldn't believe the car selection, given the route, even if they don't follow it exactly. I was so excited to see that those kind of vehicles going through that kind of treatment. And obviously, they show enough of in the trailer of the kind of various iterations the cars go through. They don't start out very off-roady, but they look like they really put them through their paces. And the thing that I also like is, I mean, there's no way to slice it. Even if you got kind of the most used and abused versions of all three of those cars, it's pretty cool because they're still pretty expensive. So it's cool to see not only not off-roady things, but cars that most people would consider street exotics. Going through the sand. I mean, what's cooler than that? And then obviously they modify them, and it looks like they're probably going to be tattered by the end of the special. But I mean, that mixed with their chemistry on camera, the humor, it should be a recipe for probably one of the best ones yet. I mean, I love the premise of this one more than I have been excited about the previous specials. So,
100%.
I gotta be honest. I'm the same way. I echo that exactly. Like, to me, this is getting back to like old Top Gear. This is how like the old Top Gear specials were, and like this reminds me a lot of the Africa special, where where it was the Subaru, the Volvo, and I forget the third one.
That's not the one where they had Oliver, I don't think.
No.
This was the one where I think they were looking for the source of the Nile.
Oh, it was. Yeah. I think James had a Mercedes in that one.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah.
And then he took all the doors and stuff off.
Yeah. But this is really cool. It's a DB9, by the way. I just looked at the trailer.
Oh, it is.
To see if I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it on the back badging. It's a DB9. But it honestly, like if you go, like I'm on Car Throttle right now. If you go and you look at it, it honestly looks like a DBX from the front because they all look the same. I mean, it's an Aston. They all very much look similar. But I mean, I'm very excited because F-Type is my attainable dream car at this point because they are getting cheap. You can find V6s into the 30s, and there was one at 29 the other day for a convertible, and I'm like, are you serious? It's insane. But you can find them even on CarMax with a warranty.
I was just gonna say the one for 29 must have been at a Nissan dealership. But
yeah, it was on some random like side lot dealership in Brooklyn. I'm like, yeah, we're not gonna buy that, but they're in the 20s at this point. But you can find F-Type Rs on CarMax for like low 40s, which is just stupid value for the money. So I'm excited to see what the F-Type can do all hopped up, which is cool. And strange to think that the F-Type is the most reliable one of the group.
I know, that's what I'm saying too.
So
It's like that's the one that I'd be like, oh, I'm better off in this one than the others.
Yeah, but at least we know that engine is going to be pretty good. At least I hope, because I mean that V8 and then the V6, which is just the V8 with two cylinders lopped off and plugged.
It's so funny.
Well,
I love that
plugged.
diagram.
It's the same. The block is the same.
Yeah.
Like I am actually working on like a engine video about it. But if you look at the two, they're exact, and it's just like, stuff.
They literally just put like two like kink plugs in.
They're like, how do we make a V8 or a V internal combustion piston driven engine like a rotary? Like, you know how they just slap more rotors on it?
Yeah.
It's like, well, just plug it.
Yeah.
And then like next thing you know, in their compact car, it's like a V2, and it's.
I like
random.
I like Sean's comment here that it sounds like the Gambler 500, but the reverse, the Baller 500. It's like, it's pretty true. It's take the most expensive car you can find and thrash it.
And Jake saying, yeah, he was seeing V6 coupe manual F-types. Manual, that's actually pretty good. And in the low 30s, and
that's tempting.
I mean, that is tempting. And as someone who has driven literally the entire F-type lineup from nothing to SVR, it's a really good car with the V6. Like, everyone's like, oh, but it's not the V8. I'm like,
no, I don't care.
It's really good, and it's probably, if not the best sounding V6 ever. It's so
I agree.
good. It
And the
is
thing that gets
so
me
good.
on them is that the V6 has the center exit exhaust, which looks dramatically better than the split exhaust on the V8s. I think it should have been like the other way around. I love the two big center exits because that's more E-type than, you know.
I mean, yeah, yes, I totally agree. But I don't know. I don't like center exhaust. I don't know if I'm just weird, but I don't like the center exhaust. I wish they would have kept it. I think it's cool on the six that it has the center, but two on the side, like even like this has two on the side. It's okay. I like the quad. If it's gonna be a split exhaust, it's got to be quad for me.
Sure.
Completely agree, and that's like one of the things that bothers me about my Mustang the most is that it's only got it's dual exhaust. And I mean the exhaust exits are huge, and it doesn't look bad, but quad tips for the win.
Yeah.
That was my Volvo.
Quad tips are great.
When I saw Rich Forsyth's C30 with the quad tips, I'm like, I need that.
Yeah.
That looks so much. On that car specifically, it changes the whole back end. It makes it look so much like just more aggressive, and nothing else was done to the body. It was just quad tip exhaust.
I would like to point out that drinking sponsored by my child's freezer bag tonight.
Heck yeah.
FYI. So yeah, if you hear zippers and me opening cans, yeah, it's in my kid's freezer bag. That's an owl. So cool.
Just make sure you take all your stuff out before school tomorrow.
No, he
Yeah,
could have a
probably
really
a good
fun.
call.
No, he's gonna have a really calm day at school tomorrow. It'll be fine.
He'll be the
He
most
was
popular
so-
kid on the swing set.
He was so calm. It was
Black
like, yeah,
Mob-
he was having a great day.
Mrs. Smith, I gotta go potty.
He's just sitting there.
Oh
on
yeah,
the-
he breaks the seal early on in the school day.
makes that rookie
man.
mistake.
Rookie mistake in first period, bro. You can't do that.
He's sitting out there on recess next to the jungle bar. It's like, hey, you guys want any of this goofy dad juice I got from home?
Dude, my dad's soda's still in here.
He comes home and he's got like all new like trading Pokemon cards and all his other stuff. Like, where'd you get that?
My dad packed me a goofy juice box. Now I feel all tingly. This is weird.
Oh, that's awesome.
Gets the world's first DUI at a
so
big
yes.
wheel.
I'm excited for Grand Tour. It'll probably be the first one I watch, and then I'll go watch all the rest of them.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm personally looking forward to it quite a lot. And this is the second to last one. So we'll get one more. I think them in Mozambique. And then they're done. I mean, let's face it,
That's it.
It's not like they haven't given us a lot of content over 20 years.
Yeah,
I was gonna say they've been doing it for a while, so it's fine.
Yeah. So it's no, all that's always usual. I mean, ending with this, I don't know if I'm doing this type of stuff if it's not for Top Gear and those guys. You know, they were
For
a
sure.
huge inspiration and everything, and as far as making car content cool without, going the overly educational route that most of the car content at the time was. So
Absolutely.
it'll be cool. It's I mean, Ellie, your boys know it all too well with Car Trek and everything right behind you and stuff. Like,
Yep.
that 100% doesn't exist without Top Gear.
I don't know which side to go to. It's all reversed for me, so I'm like,
Come on, Vanna White it correctly. Damn it, let's
I know.
go.
So
That's actually a question I have for you. Like, I know we talked about it a little bit last time with your background, but how big of an influence on you personally was Top Gear? Like, was it like the driving force, or was it more just like, oh, this is really cool. I can see myself doing this one day, and then it kind of like burgeoned up from there, maybe.
I'd say it's definitely more the latter. I mean, I grew up absolutely loving Top Gear, and then I started kind of messing around with filming cars before really YouTube was a thing anyway. I mean, still like DV tapes and all that stuff. And, obviously, as Top Gear evolved, it was one of those things where in my mind, I was like, that's really cool. And even as like a teen, I was like, it's too bad nothing will ever kind of be like this again. But it was like, how cool would that be to even approach something like that? And then I think it just kind of evolved from there. I don't think I would not call Top Gear my main inspiration. It was just always something I loved. But definitely it brought the, and what I think what you guys were kind of saying earlier, they brought the ability to have personality into car journalism that previously wasn't there. I mean, previously it was facts and, information, and here you go, and it was like sometimes even the early stuff was, televised motor, auto, what I'm trying to say, buyer's guides, I mean, Motor Week had some good zingers every once in a while, but it was delivered in such a monotone way that you could miss it. They brought in, like I said, they brought in the personality, they brought in a good dynamic, and I mean, obviously, people have been chasing that ever since. And I mean, once those boys left Top Gear, even Top Gear couldn't do it again.
Right.
You can throw all the money at it in the world, and it just won't be that. So it's going to be sad to see them go. But like I said, don't worry. There's probably thousands of hours of content to fall back on. I mean, I know on Amazon TV and like Samsung TVs, there are 2 dedicated Top Gear only channels that are just live and running through randomized episodes of like the full library all the time.
That's crazy.
So it's like
they've like CTV'd themselves.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to lie. That's definitely, I'll turn on my TV and just let that play. Because I mean, there's not really a bad episode that you're not going to be like, it's all of them have their things.
That's a good point. I don't think there's really a single episode where I was like, man, this one sucked. Like, there's always one that like there's some redeeming quality.
Right. There's better segments than others, but yeah, overall it was like there's something for you in this.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, something that's very difficult to duplicate, much like a good music album that every song is really good. It's like a lot of these songs, they have one good song and the rest of the album's filler. That could be the case with a lot of automotive stuff.
Banger after banger.
Very true.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always thought, and even with like the Car Trek guys to an extent, or I think a lot of YouTube is sort of filling that. I always thought that there would be the next one. They tried to make the next one. I think there's a reboot of Top Gear. I think was starting to find its way, and unfortunately, like LeBlanc left, and all. They kept going through so many hosts that there was never a time to generate that camaraderie, that connection with each other. I think Top Gear America with Adam,
the original, yes,
Tanner
I was just about to say, I was like, that actually, it was so bad, but I'll tell you what, I watched all of it, and then it was really catching its stride right at the end. Like, it didn't feel forced anymore, and they had their own, it was still Top Gear, but they had their own dynamic. They weren't trying to copy the dynamic, and that was really getting good before those guys. It was, Adam Ferrara, what's his name, Rutledge Wood, and Tanner Faust. That was right there. And I don't know what happened to make that go away, but
it was,
they've tried that 3 more times.
Yeah,
and it's not the same.
And the interesting thing is that like it wasn't when they rebooted it wasn't like Rutledge, Tanner, and Adam weren't like just went their separate ways. Never to be. They would you could see it. They were talking to each other on their socials, commenting their event.
Legit friends.
Yeah, like 100%. So it was.
That's the big thing. It's got to be friends. You can't like manufacture something like that. And Elliot, to your point, like at the end of the America one, like they were becoming that, and that's the problem. Like they canceled it
right there.
Good, right when they were like, okay, we're actually buddies now, as opposed to just a comedian, a race car driver, and a guy that's been
a commentator who's also kind of funny. Yeah, just a silly guy.
Right, exactly. Like the proverbial TV stew was made because they had really good backgrounds to make it good, but they just it gelled right when it died off. Which sucked because you're right. That last season was so good, and I'm like, man, this is really gonna take off. And then they're like, nope, we're done. And I got really, I was very disappointed because it was getting to that would have been the next. I feel.
Yeah,
but I agree.
I have a question though. What is the next now? And I think that might lead to one of Chad's next topics because there are,
they're very similar.
There's Car Trek out there, but there are larger channels that do sort of content like this in the automotive space. Hoonigan being one of them, because they had, they still have, but they had like a really great close knit crew there. Unfortunately, with Ken Block passing, that was like the straw that broke the levee, if you will, for everyone kind of like doing the mass exodus there, along with the corporate sort of buying of that.
The latter.
So it was. I know it was that, but like there was one part that then
it cascaded from there.
Yeah, from that. Yep. But there are other channels that have large followings as well. DDE being one of them, and they have a big crew over there with Damon and Dave, but they also now have a cast of characters. So
which is key, and I think that's the modern.
And those cast of characters.
Go ahead.
And those cast of
Oh, I was just
characters
gonna
are
say, I think-
carrying content too. You know, there's
Right,
content
and I
without
think-
Damon or Dave in it that
Yes.
Well, and what people like now, I mean, because the way people consume content, there's not a kid that sits down and watches like a full TV show. Generally, like a younger kid.
Right.
We do because we grew up watching TV shows, but in general, they like that it's almost like a podcast kind of thing. They like to feel like they're hanging out with people, and they're just happen to be doing the coolest stuff all the time. So if you can not reality show it, but if they could really highly produce a vlog type thing where exciting things kind of always happen, that would be, in my opinion, the next formula. It never feels like it, but like it always feels like you're hanging with the guys, but cool stuff keeps happening.
Do you think that exists now? Is there something out there that's like that?
I mean, you're kind of hitting it with like channels like DDE, channels like Stradman, and stuff like that, where it's like I said, it feels like you're hanging out, and you're not exactly sure what's going to be, even though you do have to do the thumbnails and the clickbait and all that other stuff. I don't know what the future of the platform is because, like I said, YouTube's so competitive. With you could spend all your money in the world making a great, highly produced show, and if nobody clicks on it, nobody clicks on it.
Right.
So it needs to be kind of network driven, which is how some of these shows, like Car Trek happen. Like there's a legit crew behind it, and you get 3 well-known people, and then it just turns into something really great. I think there just needs to be something more like that, and daily shenanigans, could be one aspect of the fun. Like I said, when Hoonigan, just any of their, back when they had daily uploads, and it was just guys screwing around in that little parking lot in LA, with the little ramp, and it was like it didn't matter what it was like kind of gonna be fun.
Right.
And it was the same formula kind of over and over again, but you kind of knew it was going to be fun. Like I said, I don't have the exact answer, but I think that we're probably leaning more towards some highly produced version of that, more so than a full-on studio TV show type thing anymore.
Yeah. And Chad and I have had this conversation too. Like, I feel like YouTube is the new TV at this point because you are spoiled for choice. There is literally everything you humanly want as long as you have internet at your fingertips. And that goes for like, you have the world's knowledge at Google. You can just Google whatever the hell you want at this point. It's the same thing with YouTube. You don't need a Roku. You don't need an Apple TV. You don't need cable. You need internet and YouTube, and you can basically have whatever you want.
And into that vein, in fact, I find myself guilty of this because there's so many things I want to watch. We didn't talk about this last time. It used to be you got on YouTube for like a quick laugh or whatever, a random video. But now I'm like, man, I'm hunkering in for a couple of 30-minute plus things. Like that is no different than sitting down and watching The Bachelor for 30 minutes. It's just I'm doing it on YouTube. I'm spending my full hour of screen on YouTube rather than an ABC show, or whatever you call it. So I think you're absolutely right. YouTube is the new TV, and making 30-minute, I mean, I guess for YouTube that's long form, but making 30-minute pretty good things definitely fills a lot of gap of, network broadcast TV.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Like and Chad, I know you're like itching to jump in. I just want to make one more point though, because I want you to like transition to the next topic because I know that we want to talk about DDE. But that's a great point that Ellie just made. Like I love golf, and I know Chad does too because he used to work at a golf course, and I've been into golf for such a long time, and I finally got into the golf side of YouTube in the last year or two. And there's a great channel called Good. A bunch of young guys. Again, it's sort of like what we're talking about with cars. It's a bunch of guys having fun, playing golf, doing shenanigans, just enjoying life, and it's just great. It's good entertainment, and it makes for me, I really like enjoying watching the PGA Tour, major championships, things like that. I would much rather now not even watch a major championship and go watch a good video that's 2 hours long, because it's more entertaining. And I get that the competition part is there with the PGA Tour and yada, 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 but it's like hanging out with the guys. It's just a lot of fun to watch. And yes, they're having fun and you're not, but that isn't that what a sitcom is? Like
you're along for the ride too. You have a vested
right. I mean, you're not physically having the fun, but it's the same thing as like you're watching a movie. It's an escape from reality for a little while. And it's the same thing with these long YouTube videos. Like, Good does like hour, 2 hour things. They have like a whole tournament now. And I watched the whole tournament. It was way more entertaining than anything the PGA Tour produces. So like, it's the same sort of scenario, but in a different genre, essentially.
I think just to piggyback off that, like, number one, I enjoy that style of content more than like pro golf now, like 100%, because pro golf is just a joke at the moment, in my opinion. Between everything that happened,
Very much, yes.
With like, we're breaking away, we're not the PGA, we're never going to be, we're just going to do this, we're the rebels, okay, we're joining the PGA. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, that was a big cluster.
And then now
that's a big cluster.
And like, it just totally and completely screwed over the guys who were loyal to the PGA. Like, totally. And I was never a big fan of Live. I liked the thought process that they had, bringing a team element into it, the less formal version of golf, music on the golf course, not the stodgy game that like our fathers played, but more of the modern golf game.
Expand the game,
which I really liked. I wasn't a big fan of their investors, but that's a story for another day. But the thing with that, and the thing with channels like Good, even to a certain extent, stuff like Card Track and things like that, maybe it's the subject matter. So in Good's case, it's the golf that brought you in. But what keeps you around is the individuals, the personalities, and things like that. So once the person is hooked, the golf is a nice backdrop to the story, so to speak. It's kind of the driver of the story, but you could care less. You have like your favorite guy on there who you're kind of rooting for, but the interaction with what you're watching. Those guys could be sitting around a poker table. You probably still tune in if you're hooked in on the channel because you like the personalities to the point where, and I guess this goes for all forms of entertainment, or specifically, video style stuff. It's if you can hook them with you and it doesn't matter what you're doing, that's the success of it, right? Like, there's so much stuff that I could tell you that I would have never, ever watched if it wasn't for the individual behind it. Like, Greg and I were having this conversation about Matt Carricker's channel, formerly Off the Ranch. He had some cool car stuff on there, but then he was doing construction style stuff. And I found that like when he was doing the mansion, or he's now renovating an entire resort and all this stuff, now I'm like hyped because which
is wild, by the way.
I mean,
renovating a resort that's a sentence that's just, there's so much involved in that
daunting
sentence.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But I mean, even so, and I highly recommend you guys go and watch his renovating, quote unquote, an abandoned mansion series. Because I was never like, I watched This Old House and stuff like that with my father. I watched like some stuff like that back in the day, but like the renovating a mansion thing, because it's all dilapidated, he's got to deconstruct and build it back up. I never thought I'd be involved in that, but he makes it entertaining, makes it interesting, and everything like that. To the point now where it's like, I think he did it. His most recent video was he poured a concrete slab and dug a trench for a hose, and I'm sitting here watching it till the end.
Yeah.
That does not sound exciting at all.
It isn't. And he's making fun of it the whole entire time. He's like, I'm sorry, this video's terrible. I'm sorry I had to go with the title of Secret Project. Like, the whole time. But he's like, he's just a good, entertaining dude and everything like that. But, the future, as far as it, just to circle back, as far as like with car stuff, and you mentioned DDE, you mentioned Hoonigan, and to those of you who kind of have an idea, Wheel Pros comes in and buys DDE. This was before Ken Block's death, I believe. And, they own the business. They can sell. It was probably peak time to sell, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Wait, you said Wheel Pros bought DDE.
No, I'm sorry. Wheel Pros bought Hoonigan.
Okay, I was like, wait a second. Did they sell DDE? That's bigger news.
Damon sold out.
Toyota is the forerunner of, or at the forerunner of. Anyway, it's rubbing off on me.
Happy Jewelers bought DDE finally.
Yeah, right. But so Wheel Pros buys Hoonigan, and again, we're all business people. We all own businesses. We cannot sit here and say, oh, they shouldn't have sold out, because you don't know. They probably got a massive deal. And at first, everything was kind of going the same, and then you started seeing Hurt left, Vin leaves, a bunch of other guys start leaving and everything, and now all of a sudden, most of the people, because Hoonigan was Ken Block's brand, but you rarely saw Ken or even Scotto for that matter on the Hoonigan channel.
It wasn't like on the channel. Yeah, it was
every now and again. So again, they built personalities.
The most we saw Ken was the Versus series, and that was really it.
Well, the Versus series, he'd pop in and like look at certain things here and there, but it was very he wasn't the reason you were tuning in. It was a nice little cherry on top, but it wasn't the reason you were tuning in. And now all these guys are starting to leave, and you're like, what the heck's going on? Not to get into the nitty gritty of corporate America, but effectively, that's what happened. They came in, and it's like, wait, why are we paying? Because at the end of the day, everybody you saw on the Hoonigan YouTube channel was there to do a job. They just happened to be on the YouTube channel. Like Vin was, I think, doing a lot of their like social media and their like marketing and their branding and brand deals and things like that. You know, one of the other, I think, the one dude was graphic design, and he just so happened. All these guys came in, and they weren't brought in to be personalities. They were doing a job, and their job was redundant now that this company bought them. And to such an extent that they moved out of their HQ, so to speak, and DDE moved in. And if you watch what DDE's doing now with the yard, or as they call it, the block, in honor of Ken, it's very reminiscent. It's just the cars went from being a Euro or a JDM or even an old American car to a Ferrari, a Lamborghini. Like they just
an SVJ Aventador, yeah.
You know, they upscaled it, but a lot of it is very similar, and they have, you know, their mechanics, their specialists that are becoming, like I said before, personalities in their own right. And for my money, where they're headed is what Hoonigan was. You know, they're building a car to do a Gymkhana video. They're doing a Lamborghini version of the Hoonicorn or what have you. And, I mean, we're all the better for it. It's just, I guess, the question I have is like, well, this is great for DDE. I'm, like, still sad to see Hoonigan go. And even though, like, Vin's channel's doing well and, like, Hertz's channel's doing well, he was even in that Baby Got Brap video song that was going around for a while.
I love T-Pain, by the way. He said he is the best.
You know,
he's awesome.
So, but I had something here. I guess. I mean, I'll kind of end it with this. That's kind of the dream, right? Like, get your HQ, have guys build cars for you, drive them in your own space, right? Like, and not have to worry about
sign me up right now.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, I'm very much in for that. What's property looking like by you? Because I'm down to move, Elliott. Let's go.
It's pretty cheap, dude. A little money goes a long way here in Kansas, and we have a lot of just land. I mean, it's a largely undeveloped state.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is we're in Jersey, where literally there's someone living in my own home, and I don't know it because there's so much population density.
Goodness.
It's insane.
Yeah. I got room to do this here. So.
Yeah, if I do this in Jersey, I just touched someone.
Yeah.
If I go 20 feet in like that direction, I'm on my neighbor's deck.
yeah, great case in point there. So yeah, but I mean,
but you guys have a cheesecake factory, and we don't. So I mean,
and better pizza and better bagels.
Cheesecake factories.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you gotta think about these things sometimes. Is it worth moving away from that?
What do you have there that could compare? Compel us to move.
Man, just
sweeten
a whole bunch of Cracker Barrels. Let's see. we actually do for a while.
And for that reason, I'm out.
Wichita for a while. It might still. We used to have the highest restaurants per capita in the U.S.
Really?
Well, because it's the Midwest, and like we are, I guess, a fairly big Midwestern city, but like, and we're still, fat. So we want a lot of restaurants really close. So we actually do have a lot of choice. We just don't have, like I said, the only thing we don't have is Cheesecake Factory, pretty much. But I don't think we could support it.
That's so random. That's like a big one.
I don't think we could support it. Cheesecake factories need to be packed all the time, and Wichita would only pack it on the weekends. I just know that's how we are.
Yeah. But
sorry, I didn't mean to derail into a cheesecake.
No.
I'll put it this way: the food out here, I would put up against most, if not all, states. Like the tri-state area corridor here, northern New Jersey, New York City, New Haven, like into
I know you
Connecticut
guys
and stuff.
got amazing food.
I mean, just walk into New York. You're spoiled for literally every single thing you can humanly want in food. It's nuts what you can just walk into in New York and be like, wow, that exists? Cool, let's try it. Nuts.
So
But to Chad's point, like I think where you were trying to like weave that story was, is DDE now the new Hoonigan because they're in their old space, because they're sort of moving towards that? And like I think probably in a way yes, but to your point of they're sort of upscaling it to like, oh well, it's not, it's not a crazy 1400 horsepower Mustang. It's now it's an SVJ, or
Right.
it's an 812. So it's a different. I'd say it's like Hoonigan plus, and the plus just being like exotics, because that's been DDE's brand for the whole time. And Damon's never. I mean, he's never shied away from it. The whole reason he started YouTube was because of Ken Block. Like that's the Gymkhana videos was the reason why he started. One of the, I think, if not the first video that was on DDE was him hooning a Gallardo around in a Gymkhana style.
it was literally him
and
trying to do his Gymkhana impersonation. Just like one of our first videos is me
it was
like
like
doing
Lambo-khana.
a two or three corner drift session in my IS 300 in the snow, because it was at that point still NA,
Right.
and that was the only way I could kick the ass end out without going a million miles an hour.
Right, but I think yes, it is. But do I think it's going to be any like less entertaining because they're trying too hard? I don't think so. It's a whole new challenge. Like the whole reason they came to California was to like do new stuff. So I think that it's going to be interesting to watch them grow and do different things. But I don't think it's the new Hoonigan in the sense that like, oh, they're like just they're going to be bigger than them. I just think that it's going to be different, but it'll be DDE sort of like, it'll be DDE through and through, as opposed to like what Hoonigan.
They're gonna have
They'll
to
find their
Maple
own way.
syrup and mooses.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yes, exactly.
But
exactly. I mean, I'm going to keep watching. It's because it's good. It's just good content. Like I enjoy their vlogs and videos too. So like I'll keep watching regardless.
Big time.
I mean, I think I'll end it with this and then take a quick break. But my only concern with that is, in every business, right, is when is expansion too much expansion and overextend yourself? Now, I will caveat that with, I think the style of content they're making and the amount of content that they're now pumping out on their second channel, all kind of tying into the one, sort of the one brand, etc., will help them and stuff. But I mean, they just dropped a metric ass ton of money to move into this building, and
Yeah.
the only fear I have is that they're throwing everything they have at it content wise, and in the hopes that it just skyrockets things. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm not saying I'm like really worried about their channel and this sort of thing. But to go from, I think what they were in like 5,000 or 6,000 square feet to over 30,000 square feet. Granted,
Big.
granted they went from a nice area. Well, I shouldn't say a nice area to Compton, but they went from a place where real estate was a little more expensive to where Compton is, where it's not as expensive.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way of saying it, though.
But I'm excited.
Straight
for
out
it
of Compton is a thing.
because I'll be honest with you, all the early DDE style stuff, I was like, on. But I mean, just look at what they have in the works right now. They have the 720 GTR build down in Arizona with a completely custom one-off carbon fiber body that was kind of a shit show that they have to massage and have professionals put it. I can tell you right now, bodywork is not cheap. I've gotten estimates on just replacing the front clip on the Mustang and how much that would cost, and it hurts my soul, but it's nothing compared to this. Paint is
And that's a
mother-
Mustang versus a 720.
Right,
I can only imagine.
But I mean, we're talking like 15K easy just to have it paint and the match and all this other sort. It just, where as opposed to like it was still painful, but like when I got everything I've had installed on that Mustang was like $8,000-9,000 in labor. Like it's just that, which is a lot Don't get me wrong, but that's, I mean, you can go and watch the video because it's way too long to list and it's been listed 1,000 times here. But to where literally hood, fender, bumpers, and the paint, the labor is just massive or what have you. So they have that going.
Yeah.
They have the F12, which is I love the nerdy level of detail that Mike Essa goes into with that car.
Mike Essa is so good, by the way.
So cool.
I got it. He is the best. He's so.
I mean, because
I love Mike Essa. Just not only because I love FCP Euro, but also he's just a great dude.
Yeah, and it was such a win for them because they found a guy who's not only a really, really good mechanic, fabricator / builder of cars, but also a personality that vibes on camera, which is huge.
Totally.
How many people have these mechanics? Like, I love Jeff and Jesse, but they're not used to being on camera. So, like, you know, but Michael Essa took to it like a fish to water and everything.
Yeah.
So, I think, no, I'm excited for what they have. I just hope with everything that they're doing, none of this crap is cheap. And they just,
yeah.
And they just threw them, they just upped their rent by, I don't know how many times, a pretty large factor. I just hope.
Many tens of thousands of dollars.
I just hope that they're able to continue. Because just from a personal standpoint, like, I want to see them make content, but I want them, this is their dream. How excited would we be, Greg, if we moved into like just like a 40 by 72 foot garage?
I'd be happy with a shed at this point. I don't even care.
God.
So like, it's just really exciting.
I'm over here with all of this space, and I'm like, yeah, the guys must be super nice. I can really imagine.
My driveway does this, so anything that's flat, I'm cool with at this point. It doesn't even have to be a shed. Just a parking lot, I'm fine with.
I still remember you trying to get the Aston when we came back. It had to be, I think it was around midnight when we finally arrived because we went down to Tavares's place, picked up the car, all day drove it back up here, and we get to Greg's around midnight, Hanson and I, and watching Greg trying to like. Sort of like, you know how like when you're learning how to ski, you traverse down the hill and stuff like that. Well, Greg's like doing this in reverse with the Aston Martin, trying not to scrape anything. And anytime there's like the littlest thing that
it didn't help that there's like this tiniest little patch of ice at the bottom of the driveway because it's winter, and the driveway's perfectly fine to go up with sports cars. Like, you can come in on an angle and then you just go up. Like, it's steep, but like you can do it with almost any low car as long as you just go straight in on the angle, turn, and go straight up. It's fine. But there's this little patch of ice at the bottom, and I'm just like gunning it, like, and it's just going straight sideways, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do. I've got to go get some hot water. So it was just so awkward. And it's like 11 o'clock at night. I have this V8 revving in my neighborhood.
No
I'm like,
resonators.
okay, well, this isn't the best first impression.
That is awesome.
That was still to this day one of the coolest things we've ever done.
Yeah, I agree. I have a question for the guy in the middle, actually. How is your fleet doing, sir? Because you have lots of awesome cars, and I know Steve in chat asked how the Car Trek Maserati is doing. So let's go through your cars. How are they doing, and what are your next things on them?
That's a great question. Not a whole lot has changed since I was last on the cast. But I have switched from dailying my Prius to my E39 BMW, which was kind of a nice choice. It's been good.
Good upgrade.
Yeah.
From Prius to E39, I can only applaud literally every decision you've made.
It has been a lot more fun. My Corvette, still haven't driven since like the last, I don't know, what I was doing like that giveaway thing with.
Right.
It needs a lot, and it's one of those things where it's like I should be doing it, but every time I've done like moderate content with it, just like doesn't do that well, which makes me makes me keep putting it off, so on and so forth. Like you could drive it, but
sure,
it just needs so many little things that it gets annoying. Is
it mechanical little things, or is it like just little things that are just annoying
things? It's mechanical little things, and then the last thing I even need a new clutch, like slave cylinder. Yeah, but I have. Okay. I just need to put it on. And it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I don't know. I'll spend this time doing it on some other car. The Volvo is great. Aside from, and I don't want to spoil my next video, but I went to go move it with no reason. It was on a tender, dead battery. And I was like, gosh dang it. And I have a new turbo control valve ready to put on it. Not that that's wrong, but like I said, everybody was saying my values in Vita were, possibly all over the map because of a turbo control valve. And it wouldn't surprise me because, well, I've replaced everything else in that car. Why shouldn't that
You
also be
really
replaced?
have, yeah.
And speaking of, I was like, where's my FCP Euro deal? I've gotten zero love from them. I don't even think they know who I exist.
It's all right. I only got brakes, so don't read too deep into it.
I had to pay for mine. Yeah. Anyway, no, I've got that ready to go. I just am waiting to do the day where I can make both of those things happen simultaneously and then still have the weather be nice enough to do a road test so I can have Vita up under load. Because believe it or not, we actually got quite a bit of snow here. We haven't in a couple of days, but the last few months we've gotten randomly some pretty heavy snowfall, which again would have been the time to have the Volvo being all-wheel drive, but alas.
But that's pretty rare for Wichita, isn't it?
We do get snow.
You guys don't get a ton of snow. You get some, but not a lot, right?
No, we don't get a ton. And the first time we got, I'm not even joking, 8 inches, but it was like pure powder. It was kind of cool because like you didn't even need to snow scrape. You could kind of just like blow it off of your car, and it was fine.
Like
the
a leaf blower.
Literally, it was seriously. It was great. But the next time that it snowed, a couple of weeks ago, it snowed and then it rained and then froze and then snowed more on top of that. So it was like an actual problem, like schools closed and all that stuff, and it was annoying. And then of course the roads are crappy for the next like week and a half because we sand our roads out here, so it stays. It like makes the snow all gross, and then like you can even hear it on like 2-lane or 4-lane roads. If you're in the near lane while somebody's passing you, every time, which makes me not want to drive any of my nice cars, you can hear the second one passes you, and then you just hear the particulate hitting and absolutely peppering the front of your car. So like I'm always just like, oh, it's gonna be weeks before anybody brings anything cool out because they don't want to get their paint sandblasted. And I don't blame them.
Like Jack Sparrow is like, stop blowing holes in my shit.
Yes, it's seriously
basically the same thing that the entire Northeast goes through.
On the windshield and the front bumper. You hear, like, it's just a little mini sandblast every time a car drives by. So painful. Now we're actually back. The roads are fine again. But anyway, so that's that.
Did you get
Maserati
on the VR? Did you get the OEM unit for the TCV or the Pierberg unit?
I'm pretty sure I got the OEM unit.
Good.
It's an FCP Euro thing, so I'm pretty sure. I really haven't even opened the box yet because I'm like, I'll open this when I go to put it on. But I'm pretty sure I spent the money because I want it to be right. Like this is like the last thing that's keeping it from supposedly until the next thing. Being funny. Maserati's been great. I obviously haven't had it out because of the weather, but every time I go to move it in the garage, it's simply the best. It is the best like cold start. You can't even like replicate the sound that car makes because it's somehow high revving Italian, but also grunty V8, and it's like that. It just sounds cool.
What is that? Is it a 4.3?
I think it's like a 4.2. It's like a small V8.
I don't know what it is, but like low 4, like 4.2, 4.3 V8s, they just make such a good noise. Like the 4.3 and the Aston made such a good. This is the 4.3 and the 4.7 in that Vantage generations and the Gaydon era stuff. But like the same thing with the small 4.2s from the Maseratis, and it's just something about like lower literage, like high 3s, low 4s V8s. Yep. They just sound so
something about
good.
It, and it's so amazing. Like it's always been the acoustic thing since you're a Volvo guy too. I've always thought it's just interesting how crazy different adding or subtracting a cylinder at all can make. You think it would just be louder, like the more cylinders you are, but it's a completely different tone no matter what cylinder count you have. It's awesome. And I know there's probably a great acoustical video out there about why that is, but it is just so. But I love that about cars. That's why certain cars can be the way they are and have the personalities there. Heck, Jaguar F-Type we were just talking about, that's a really good sounding V6. Slap 2 more cylinders on it, and that is a snarly V8.
It's 100%
amazing.
Jason Camisa actually did a really good video on why your car sounds the way it does.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, he has a good one.
And it's crazy to me, but like when I first really started diving into it was when I got when I had the M3, and how that had a bassier, completely different noise to my Lexus with the NA2J in it and everything, and it was like, there's only 200 cc. How are these things sounding?
Right. How is this so different?
They use a different firing order. There's also ITBs involved, and all, like the exhaust plays such
so
a
much
role
difference in engineering. It's cool. It's very audiophile in that way, where you can hear the difference between like a Bang & Olufsen system and a Bose system. Like but it's the same way between engines. You get that sort of engineering differences and the sound quality differences, especially with Lexus. It's a good one to bring up because they always engineer their cars to like the nth degree, right? So it's a very different thing from like a BMW, which goes for that snarly kind of sound, to a Lexus, which you're just like, oh well, this is very refined, but it still can be hoony in a way, which is it's cool to see how the differences in that like pan out.
All of that is why we can be, as car guys, be outside. And I know for one, I don't even have to hear fence. I'm like, that was a Subaru.
Well,
you're like,
yeah.
You're like, how do you know? I'm like, I know.
Yep.
I know it was. Okay. So,
but what's that one from Top Gear? Is like, wait, I hear the sound of a flat four that precedes the imminent arrival of a moron. Like, it's such a great line, but that's true. Like we know those noises. Like if you were pulling up in the VR, I'd be like, yep.
You'd be like, I know what that is.
That's the other thing. Yep. The difference in sound between Greg's VR and my C30 was
crazy different.
Totally different.
Wild.
It's insane.
It shouldn't sound any different.
I was
largely the same engine. I mean, they're both about 5 cylinders, but
I think,
man, what a different sound.
And I think they even have the same firing order, so it's not even like you're getting the pulses differently. It completely insane to me. Like I was really stoked because I had never known about the C30 until I started looking for one. I was like, man, this is gonna be awesome. A small little hatchback that sounds like a V10 in mono. This is gonna be awesome. And then it's like, wait a minute, it just growls. What the hell? And
well, it's the same way though. The biggest version of that though, I don't know how many you've heard in person, but the new Z06 with its flat frame crank, I mean, it sounds like a Ferrari. It sounds like Americans did a Ferrari. It's like we hooked up a Ferrari to the biggest amp in the world. Like if you hear a really good cold start on that, and you're like, at first you're like, that was a Ferrari, and then you're like, no, it wasn't. That was way louder, and it's a Corvette, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's like you said, it's just being car guys.
But being car guys, yeah. Although its downside is every time I hear like a pretty good sounding V8, at least here in the Midwest, half the time I look over and it's a darn truck from the 80s and just straight pipe, and like sometimes you hear it round up, you're like and then I look and that's just about the time I hear the lazy auto shift, and then I'm like, oh, I knew it wasn't very cool. I should have known.
Right. It's I mean, around here it's the exact same. I'll be like, oh, that sounded like a cool Ram. That sound
it's just home brewed, straight piped trucks.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing. A lot of those trucks, those engines, share a significant amount of componentry to their car counterparts, right?
They do.
The new F-150, I think it's 2020 or 2021, somewhere in that neighborhood. The Coyote that comes in the F-150 is identical in every way to the Coyote that comes in the Mustang. The only difference is they're messing with airflow in the intake manifold, and because previous
that's what Mark Anthony just said in the chat. He said the difference between the C30 and the VR is the manifold. It's funny.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's still
but it's wild.
Well,
it's acoustics and airflow, and it's like the same motor. How did you make it sound so different?
Yeah, it's one of those. I mean, when it comes to cars, if you take cars and then like break it down into its parts, Greg and I have very different. What makes a car awesome for me? I could say if let's just say shifting lanes was to do a joint project, Hansen would probably have a lot to do with the overall mechanical design of it because he's an engineer and he has that sort of engineer brain. Greg is a visual / like I don't even know the best way to describe it, but a lot of it is the visuals behind it and everything. And but for me, it's 100% the engine. Like for me, what makes or breaks a project is the engine itself. What does it do?
Absolutely.
What does it do well? You wouldn't put a high revving naturally aspirated K motor into a pony car, right?
Right.
But it would work really well in, say, something small and nimble like a Miata or even like an old.
Well, it's the heart and the soul for a reason. I mean, that's the reason sometimes there's a lot of good platforms out there that don't necessarily have good motors. I mean, the Plymouth Prowler is a good platform. It just has, a V6. and also a very lazy 90s Chrysler transmission, which doesn't help anything either. But like I said, if the platform was there, just the motor wasn't. But sometimes, like I guess we'll save it for the upcoming chat. Never mind. I was going to make an example, but I do not want to spoil anything. So
yeah, I mean,
so never mind.
That also, I think I heard the what did Greg said, the rumbling of an incoming idiot.
Yep.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean,
I am the idiot. I'm the imminent idiot. Let's go.
There we go. So now that we're all back, and
I just want to say I never left. You're welcome, everybody.
It's
audience
good.
dedication.
Hey, you're the guest. That's why people are tuning in. You didn't know, but
they don't care about us anymore.
You were signing up to carry the show today. Greg and I are both going to go. You're going to have the next hour to yourself.
Yeah, I know. I'll be like, okay, it's a one-man show now, and then
the Elliott Alvis one-man show tonight only. Shifting Lanes Garage Theater.
5
Best
people
marquee I've ever seen.
At least.
So,
at least.
Let's say at least get the right
7-night stand.
We should have sold tickets.
I get a portion of the door though.
Oh,
totally.
Yes.
You get 90% of the feed at that point.
I'll just we'll get you another really awesome shirt. How's that?
Okay, perfect.
So
yeah, we do need to show that for those of you watching. If you can see, I might need to back up, but this is the coolest shirt I might own. It is a.
It is.
I know
awesome,
I think Chad AI'd this live while we were chatting. But it's a cat doing a burnout somehow in a Volvo. It's just so cool. And
it is.
I can't wait. I'm rocking it with pride.
You
guys got to see it before my channel even got to see it. So there you go. My new favorite cat shirt.
Yeah,
I was like, that's the channel in a nutshell.
It is actually. I have to be honest. Like AI is really good. That's a legitimately good shirt.
This is a sweet shirt. Like when you first did it, I was like, oh, I didn't know an artist made that. And you're like, I just made it just now. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
So I asked ChatGPT to do this for me, and Dolly spit it out. It was wonderful.
It's fantastic. And anyway, so I'm rocking that. I'm rocking some Shifting Lanes gear, and I believe it's available on your guys' store.
Yeah, I just dropped the link in chat.
Yes.
And the best part about it is I think I named it Elliott the Cat Drifting.
It is.
I love it.
Elliott the Cat.
That's what it will be named when this is eventually hung up in an AI art museum. That can be.
Also, side note, start AI art museum. Good call.
Dude, if artists are in uproar now, can you imagine if there was a brick and mortar building celebrating AI? It would be a constant protest.
Yeah, but that's the best.
It's
publicity
perfect. It's the most.
ever.
It's the biggest troll art exhibit you could have in the world. Is just be like, bring us your best AI art.
Oh, it's so good.
Or you don't, or the gallery's just empty, right? And you just have a bunch of flat screens on it. And when you buy the ticket, you just literally type the art you want to see, and then you just display that. So you're charging people to make all of the stuff for you.
Show me
Here,
Picasso.
somebody said display the shirt again, but hold on. There we go. I'm trying to back up. See, I'm on like a narrow.
So
there we go.
good.
Full screen now.
It's so
so
good.
backwards. All right. Yeah, there we go. It's so good.
It's so good. Like I'm not even trying to just be like, man, go buy this shirt, but it's like
I don't
freaking
even get any
fantastic.
proceeds of this. I just love it. Yeah.
I'm not even joking. If we could screen mirror, I'm actually buying my own shirt
You
right
should.
now.
It's
I'm not even
amazing.
kidding you.
I can't wait to wear this. Yeah, around people be like, dude, that's a nuts shirt. That's awesome.
It's so good. And it comes in 4 lovely colors: charcoal heather, carbon gray, brick red, and
Charcoal
black.
Heather. What do you think she did to get that nickname?
Charcoal heather. Yeah. Next on stage, charcoal
Yes.
heather.
Yeah, that's
Right after
That's the girl-
sapphire. Like,
that's the girl who had
yeah.
a bad reputation who smoked too much in high school. It's like, that's old Charcoal Heather over there.
That's good.
You don't want to mess
man,
with her.
Yeah, she's a tough broad. Like, you don't screw with her.
Charcoal Heather is fire.
Oh man, that's so good.
Oh my gosh.
Also, note to myself: start account of AI called Charcoal Heather.
Charcoal Heather.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
David, now I want one in Charcoal Heather just so I can tell people that name.
Elliott the Drift Cat on Charcoal Heather.
Charcoal Heather. It's like, if you just said that sentence, people would be like, what are you talking about?
And only the 3 of us / the 11 people watching on Facebook and anyone on YouTube would be like, I'm in the know. We know what's going on. We know what's up.
Anywho, that's. What? That's it.
I'm not kidding. I actually am buying this like live on the internet.
Dude, that's good. This is good. This is like watching like live bidding, except it's a fixed price.
Limited time run, guys. Elliott the Drift Cat. Anthony goes, I'm waiting for my awful hoodie to make another Streamlabs order. Yes, I am working on that. It's somewhere on my computer. I just haven't uploaded it for your final approval, Mark. And then Steve goes, could you make another but with a 2016 CRV? I'd buy that in a heartbeat. We'll file it there. Maybe that's something we'll do for our wonderful supporters / members. Is you just submit a shirt idea, and then that we'll have a supporter shirt of the month or shirt of the week thing. But I think a cat drifting a Volvo is a perfect segue into the meat and potatoes of the show today, which is, as many of you guys...
Let's get Greg a new car.
Yes. Greg is in the market for a fun, sporty sports car that we've talked about at length here. And it's fun because, one, I like car shopping. Number one,
We all do.
I do it regardless of what.
Always a good
I
time.
think I still have like 4 active, like not alerts, but like emails from car gurus. It's like, hey, here are some of these vehicles. Here are some of these. Here are some of
Yeah,
the, like
same.
always running and stuff. But unlike myself, Greg
actually has this money burning in a hole in his
yes,
pocket.
he actually
He's got to do it.
is going to do it hopefully within 2024. So, and like I said earlier, Elliott has a unique perspective coming from, you do a lot with the auctions and stuff, so you have an eye for what's going up, what's going down. We talked about cars likely to appreciate last time you were on the show. So, an interesting perspective for Greg, or for Elliott, to offer cars to Greg, like, hey, look into this, you'll have fun, they're awesome vehicles, and in a few years' time, 5, whatever, you might make money on it, which
Right.
we like money.
Yeah.
So,
Like I said, don't take my market advice as truth or whatever
right, comes with the
whatever the disclaimer is there.
comes with the
I'm
disclaimer
only going
that
to buy what you recommend.
this
and
is-
sue you when it breaks down.
this is purely opinion. We are not responsible for any financial loss that goes.
So I know you guys chatted about it sort of on the side, so I would be surprised
I know.
about this. But
I felt
just
so dishonest. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. So just so everyone either listening on the podcast or is watching now and listening on Facebook or YouTube, my whole thing is just like, okay, I've saved up a bunch on the side, and it's been over like the last like 5-6 years through shifting lane stuff and whatever. I have about $10,000 on the side ready to make like a down payment, like chilling, good to go. And whatever we make through shifting lanes, if I can put more to the side for that, then yes, cool. Like currently it's at 11 because we've had a good December and January. So cool. I made an extra $500 each month to kind of put to the side to have that. So
know that if you
sort
see
of
Gregson at the grocery store, he's got
Yes.
10 G's on him.
No, literally
Just think
not
about
even near
that.
me. It's literally in the freaking cloud somewhere, and I don't know
I'm just
where
kidding.
it is.
Do not attack him in public.
Wait, it's in the cloud? Is it Bitcoin?
No, it's in a savings account, but it's not a brick and mortar savings account. So it's fictional internet money.
It's a mattress type situation. Okay.
Yes, I have a Serta Perfect Sleeper filled with coins. It's literally no springs. It's just
FDIC
coins.
Tempur-Pedic.
It's literally
Franklin
Greg's
Mint.
original turbo for the V70R.
Didn't mean to derail it.
Stamped
It was just
with
funny
his
that you
Bitcoin
gave the
login.
exact amount.
So
It's so good. But so I've saved up this money, and now I'm looking for this. This was the whole conversation that Chad and I've had like ad nauseum. Is I'm looking for a fun, cool sports car that I can buy. We'll do it like through the business, so we can get like business benefits for it. But the whole thing is just like, okay, what's fun and interesting, but also I can use that down payment for. So could I buy something cool with it? Could I make a down payment on something? Is it going to be like, should it be reliable? Should it just be fun? So it's like there's a wide range here. So I'm interested to see what you kind of came up with here based on that sort of criteria, if you will.
Right. I'm excited to get into the list as well. I want to preface it with, when I was tasked with given the price thing and just fun sports car, I was like, okay, I can kind of come up with a list fairly quickly, top of the dome. But it was also most likely to appreciate. That's when it was like, okay, well, that's going to be tough. Because, I mean, first of all, you never know. But second of all, it was like, well, that involves a certain level of, either rarity or, there's a lot of factors that go into what could cause something to appreciate. So know that at least a lot of thought was put into this, but none of these things are guaranteed. So
True.
Without further ado, I mean, Chad's the audio visual master here. So
there's also a running joke of me hating this word that's on this license plate, and I hate Anthony for literally sending this to Chad, because I saw in chat that he said he's sending him a DM with something relevant, and I'm fairly certain it's this. So one, I love you guys, but two, screw you all. This is the worst word of all time. And yes, Chad needs to have this as his vanity license plate.
So you don't like when people describe bunt cakes ever?
He just asked for the driest one possible. Them with
any. Yeah. If the bunt cake is dry and tepid, I'm very cool with that.
Sounds like a scone at that point.
Pretty much, yeah. Scones are wonderful because you can never describe them as this. So I'm very cool with that.
So
moist.
Okay. Hey, you said it yourself. Nobody else even said it yet.
Gross. Yeah, but I do it for the lols and the reaction at this point, just because it's so gross.
Awesome.
So
the worst word ever.
So let's figure out this good transition, because this is going to be the vanity plate on Greg's car. So let's figure out what car.
Hard pass.
That is.
I leave shifting lanes.
No, you won't.
No, I won't. But
so we'll start with, and Elliott gave me a list, and we're just going to work through it. But the first one is an S2000.
Oh, these are great. Obviously, the first one you showed was a CR, and then that awesome thing. I meant
literally
the regular
best picture ever.
S2000. Obviously, if a CR is in your, wheelhouse there, definitely go with that, because that is already appreciated and is proven itself to be a thing. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, I'm sure you've been around
like 80 plus, right?
Oh, CRs are astronomical. If they're stock and low mileage, they're 80, 90. And of course, there was one in Wichita that was stock. It was black, and I didn't want it, but it was like I want to say 25 or 27, and it was 2015 or something. And I was like, I really want this, and now they're unachievable.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do you think? I'm sure you've spent some time around them or in them.
And actually, interestingly enough, there is a local coffee shop near us. It's called Sunday Motor Co. It's in Madison, New Jersey, which if you're ever out this way, you have to go to on a Sunday, because it's literally just a supercar car show. It's nuts. Like everyone
Love it.
with money in northern New Jersey, which is like a lot of people because it's crazy rich around here sometimes. Like they bring out all the Lambos and all the McLarens and all the yada yada yada, but also like rare cool stuff. Like there's like a 1970s Land Cruiser that's in green that like a powder green. I don't even know how to describe it, like seafoam green that shows up there all the time. And it's just gorgeous, but it's so cool. But one of the guys that works the counter, his family owns an S2000 low mileage with about 11,000 miles on it. And he and I have talked about it a bunch of times. And I'm like, dude, if you're looking to sell it, put it on Bring a Trailer because it's going to bring like 60, 70K probably.
It's nuts.
But they are awesome cars. They're so good. And they're one of the best driver's cars like ever.
I agree. So you've driven one then. I mean, you know.
I've very, very briefly driven one. Not the way it should be,
okay,
but enough to be like, yeah, I kind of want this.
And like I've had a couple of opportunities. I'm telling you, it's one of the crispest shifting cars to know that it came from like the late 90s / early 2000s, hitting a high RPM redline quick shift is like, oh wow, you're like, it's something. It just changes your mind. Like even though obviously it's not a gut punch of torque, like a high powered car or anything like that, but there's something about really ringing one of these out that is so fun. Also, I put it on the list because it's convertible. I think if you're going to have a fun car, convertible is big up there for me. But, like, again, this is one of those things where it's like it's right in that price range. I think history has kind of already shown that they're appreciated because even 200,000-mile examples that are, that have been owned by the worst owners ever and have terrible mods on them are still way more expensive than you'd ever think they should be.
They're still like 20, 30K.
Yeah, and you're like,
insane.
This thing's beat up and has tape on holding the top together, and you're like, I know what I've got. And the problem is the market agrees. So it's like, no, this thing's a piece of crap. But the thing is, A, it's a Honda. It can take the abuse of a careless owner, and B, well, I mean, it is what it is. Honda made practically the perfect car, and then they stopped. And now that demand, whatever, you guys all know the old saying, the supply demand jargon. We know what we're doing here, but the point is, so does Honda, and they're doing wise to not release another one for this, even though I guess they're not getting any money from the used car sales. But you know what I mean?
It's like the old
there
thing
are two companies. There are two companies that have shift action in a manual transmission that is unlike anything I've ever experienced. One of them is Porsche, the other is Honda.
Yep. There
are those two specifically, and there are great manual transmissions across the board. I mean, even the Aston had a great manual transmission, like Graziani 6-speed. It's cool. It's very unique. Gated manuals. E30, E46 M3s. Just this lots of different.
There's
really
a lot of good
manual
ones.
transmissions, but there are a lot of good ones. There are very few truly great ones. This is one of them. Porsche 911s are another one. This, I say, is on par with an all-timer as far as manual transmissions are concerned, with how it shifts and just the connection you have to the car via the transmission itself specifically would be the only reason to get this car, let alone how good it drives, period.
Right. And like I said, before we move on to the next one, I think the other thing that kind of defends it is there's also a crazy aftermarket to it. Now, given you're going to hurt its appreciation, but if the power was enough for you, there are a lot of ways to tastefully modify these things. And as long as you maintain your stock parts, you still really can't go wrong. You can find these in the sweet spot in your price range for sure. And, really have yourself a sure thing. You're going to have a really fun car, whether you mod it or not. And like I said, it was definitely one of those like, kind of things on the list.
Yeah.
So
out of left field, I didn't think this would make the list, honestly, because they're cool cars. They're very cool.
They're cool. So it's not big power, it's not, but but it does technically fit the mold of sports car and is appreciating.
I mean, they had the highest individual output of any NA motor when they were new.
Yes, they did. Yeah, I forgot about that fact. You're right.
So we're not, this is a pretty crazy piece of engineering. I should point out, the pictures I pulled off were just of cool examples, not specifically one example or the other. It was just, let me get cool examples. Some of them, there are some modifications, some of them there isn't, or what have you. But I just wanted
that one.
Decent.
I want that one.
Now this has nothing to do. I just have to laugh. Michael Wilson said Elliott doesn't do well in tiny roadsters, and I was like, and at first I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "It's because I had a horrible head-on collision in my Z4," but that wasn't my fault. I was just going straight. Somebody ran into me.
I was gonna say, is that a Z4 comment?
Yeah, I was like, God, that's pretty good. I was like, all right. I mean, like I said, it legitimately elicited a chuckle. So
Yeah,
anyway.
that's good.
And the S2000 has an even
great
longer
start.
run. You'd actually be fine.
That's true.
Just try not to run into anybody. It's pretty easy.
So I'm going to end, as we transition to each car, I want Greg to think about, and because everyone's heard Greg's list of like 2 or 3 cars that he's looking to, F-Type, Corvette, Mustang.
F-Type.
Shelby Mustang.
I know that Grand Tour trailer did not help the F-Type one, I'm sure.
I was gonna say that is like it just heightened the want.
But I want you to, at the end of this, as kind of our recap, have any of the cars that we list, whether or not they were original, we'll take the ones that may or may not have already been originally on your list, and see if any have made their way onto your list.
Yeah. I mean, this is a 10 out of 10 suggestion that I didn't even consider. Honestly, this one is. I mean, we can recap at the end, but this is definitely on the list for sure because I didn't even consider like thinking about it in that respect because this is like a baby Porsche. It will continue to appreciate it, especially at the rate that they have been. And to your point, Elliot, like even like shit kicker examples are like commanding 20-30K. So
if you get yourself a modern,
this is a no-brainer.
You're fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even like a normal one that would be a win for sure.
So, our next option, and this next one is a car that when it came out and for the first few years is a car that I wanted badly. Any of you who know my car history, this was a car I really, really, really wanted, and now not so much because reasons. But the next vehicle is.
Because reasons.
A Focus RS.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I kind of fell out of love with this vehicle is I do not like the sound of an EcoBoost. But, Elliot, why do you think this would be a good choice for Greg, who has owned an all-wheel drive 4-door hatchback before in his life?
So, to defend my choice here, I know, whatever, like I said, given the parameters.
No, I'm not crapping on the choice. It's a personal preference.
No, I'm just saying, given my parameters, right in your budget, if not under.
True.
The straight facts before we get into the reliability or any of the other early model issues or whatever. I mean, the straight facts are flat out impressive. I mean, it's 350 horsepower, all-wheel drive in a tiny package. You're getting more horsepower, or you're getting the same horsepower as a C5 Corvette in a little hatchback with all-wheel drive. Only manual. I mean, big Brimbos.
It's hard to
literally
argue against that.
It is a recipe for fun. I've driven them. They are a hoot. They have a drift mode, and that's obviously whatever. But it's fun. I mean, this whole car was built to be fun. Now it has the upside of being practical and everything like that on top of it. So that's what made me almost hesitate to put on the list because it's not an all-out sports car, and it does slightly overlap, with somebody who has an all-wheel drive wagon already. Having a higher horsepower hatch is not exactly a big departure. Now I get that, but given the other things of most likely to appreciate, this also was, fairly limited numbers, not obviously limited production, but way more limited than a standard Focus and definitely more limited than an ST. So I was like, in the future, these will be the most valuable Focuses. Now I know that's a funny metric, but it's a fact. And like I said, I think
you're right.
The straight numbers speak for themselves. I like Corvette horsepower in a little package. I mean, that's what's more to say.
If you don't, like, what's wrong with you?
Well, right,
one.
yeah.
because the Corvette horsepower in a small hatchback is just always a recipe.
It's just cool.
Good times.
Right.
But interestingly enough, I have driven this car, and I came out very underwhelmed. I want to get in one again, and this is a really interesting choice because when I got into it, it was at a press event at where were we? I think it was at Monticello. I think it was test days for International Motor Press Association. And I got in this, and I'm just like, oh man, new Focus RS. This is gonna blow my mind. And I still had my WRX at that point, and I'm like, oh man, this is This is not that much faster than my WRX.
Did they have you on a
However,
short track, or were you out on the road?
I was on the roads, and,
Okay,
and
that
the
helps. I
roads
was
around
gonna say-
Monticello were great, but you can't really ring it out, like, obviously.
But a lot of this
But-
thing is low torque, really, you know, because a lot of the
Yeah.
torque is available at like 2,000 RPM or whatever in this thing.
Yeah, I think boost starts to build it's like 17, 1800 horsepower in this thing, which is insanely low. But you're right, like you get so much low end grunt in this that maybe it was just because I couldn't ring it out properly, and also because it's press events. Most people know, and most people in the car community of any capacity know what press events are. You don't get a lot of time with these cars, especially short events where they bring a shit ton of cars into one area in a very short amount of time, like a day or two. So I only had like maybe 20 minutes with this car, not enough time to really assess it appropriately. Underwhelmed in 20 minutes, but didn't get to ring it out. A great choice because, and you said about like, oh, well, you already have a family wagon, but part of my decision could potentially be like, well, can I bring my kids around in it? Which is part of the reason why an E90 M3 is still on my radar, because I have the option, should this thing, I want to do other things to it, maybe like do fun other things that would necessitate it to be at a shop for a month. Well, hey, I got a 350 horsepower hatchback just chilling there waiting for car seats. So not a bad suggestion, especially, again, to your point, there is a huge aftermarket for these two.
Right. And they respond well to mods, being a turbo car, as we all know.
Yes,
so.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
anything you want to say,
I like
Chad?
it. I didn't even, again, this is why I love having other people's opinions, because I'm not even on my radar at all.
Well, good. I'm glad you're at least surprising you, even if they're, even if nothing else.
Great suggestion. Great suggestion.
You're gonna love it because the next one is just a regular Cobalt.
Not even an SS.
Not even
an SS. Just a fucking Cobalt.
Because it's just one you won't expect.
Well, just
oh god.
Just wait until we get to the Saturn
and
red
that's
line.
the end of the stream. See you later.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'll wrap this one up with. I've also driven one. Spent some decent time in one because again, I wanted one badly.
Yeah.
They're a hoot to drive, and I love the fact in these cars that they drove the rear wheels, meaning that all things being considered, if they're physically connected, the rear wheels are going to spin more rotations than the front wheels, and they have a clutch in the center that makes it so that doesn't happen. However, those clutches engage when you're in drift mode to get that I love that was an engineering decision.
Yeah, I do love that.
It's very cool how they like actually made like a drift mode out of this thing. So that I'm like, it's the engineering behind it is reason enough to be interested in it, I feel.
And then lastly, one of the also really cool things about it, and I think it holds a lot more value now too, is that you have someone like a Ken Block who was involved in, I don't want necessarily the design and things of that nature.
True.
I don't know.
Carol Shelby-esque, blessing this car with influence.
Exactly. And to me, that's really, really cool. And I'm sure with the exhaust and stuff, if you played around with, mufflers and
straight pipe,
hell no. If you play,
I will say, I did see one of these on the road the other day, and I did kind of geek out because I'm just like, "Ooh, an RS!"
I still get excited. I'm like,
a long time.
Yeah, I'm like, they're not around. Which again, I think one of the fun parts is kind of have it being something that you don't see every day.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Like I couldn't even remember the last time I saw one on the road. I'm like, it had to have been like 5 years probably.
Yeah.
Like, man, I was like, oh, cool, an RS. Like, maybe that's a very good suggestion.
Now to the ladies though, it's why did you just get so excited about that Focus? And then you have to be like, well, now let me tell you about it. And then you have to like dial into it, and they're like, see, I knew it. I knew you were a nerd. And you're like, man. Exposed.
Gregson exposed.
There's a show I never want to watch.
No. No, fair play. No one wants to watch that show. I don't even want to watch that show.
Donate to make sure that show doesn't happen.
Donate to me. It's extortion. It's like donate to make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's like the old Grand Tour thing where they were like, instead of sponsorships, they had pay us to not say pay us, or we'll start saying these horrible things about you.
Yeah.
Just oh man.
Oh man.
Now,
all right.
Our next vehicle is something I have quite extensive experience with, and my opinion on it, because of that one singular experience, is somewhat sour. But
Oh, good.
Oh no.
it was more the vehicle itself.
I think.
But it is an
I think I
I know
know
E46
exactly
M3.
what's coming. Yep. Yeah, I knew it was gonna be this one.
So,
Just
okay.
wait to be Vano snapped out of existence. Continue.
Now, I knew what I was doing with this, okay, because I know you guys have experience with it. So
Yep.
that wasn't foreign to me. I knew that. But given yours was special.
Basket case would be a good word. Pile of shit would be.
They're
another.
not all
Excellent
like that.
diplomatic response again. Well done.
Now, the reason this fell into the list, and for those of you just listening, I listed an E46 M3, which I know might be a fairly obvious choice, but given my parameters of price point and trying things that are appreciating, these are, like it or not, this is much like the S2000 example. If you have a natural born manual E46 M3, it could have 200,000 miles on it, and they are commanding a price that you would never, justify a few years ago. And it has shown no signs of slowing down. This was one of the cars that was on the upswing before COVID, and it hasn't stopped. Even like I said, even SMG swapped or 6-speed swapped SMG cars are still commanding a premium. Now, like I said, I know guys have had your fair share of experience with them, but I'm also coming with this since it's not an investment, but I would hope that because it's not pure content, you'd come in with a little bit more of a sorted one.
Right.
And like I said, you kind of can't lose on these. There's mods you can do if you kind of stick to the CSL kind of route. One of my good buddies had a really, not low mileage, I think 60,000, 70,000 mile E46 M3. And he kind of went with the, just kind of doing CSL stuff to it. So they were mods, but it was like pretty much OEM plus.
Right.
Have you seen how
great.
expensive the CSL intake is? That is
Yes,
robbery.
it's stupid.
That is.
It
It's
is.
like not.
Look, that's what you're showing right now
Yeah.
is the CSL. Yeah, it goes away. It's the one with the little intake. Yeah, but they are fantastic driving cars. I remember driving them when they were still new, and I was like, "This is this is the coolest handling, best handling thing, whatever." The only downside I've always thought they sound like a freaking coffee grinder when you rattle them out.
yes.
I've never
Right there
heard
with you.
a more
So
raspy,
raspy.
almost broken. Like I said, I was like, is something wrong? The first time I wrapped one of these out, I was like, is there a bunch of gravel in the exhaust? What is going on
Is
here?
part of it falling
sounds
off?
like bees. It sounds like bees in a coffee can. It's
It is.
awful.
It's a bizarre sounding car, but you get over it pretty quickly with the driving dynamics.
100%.
And
Right.
like I said,
100%.
as far as another S2000-esque thing, guaranteed to appreciate, can't go wrong. The issues are known on them, subframe issues, and they're easily remediable now. These don't have, now you brought it up, the E90 M3, while that is a four-door, you don't have the rod bearing issues. You don't have that sort of thing.
Right.
Now, no, it's not as fun as a high-revving V8, but we've seen the prices. Well, I guess the E90 M3 has kind of held its value because they really didn't make that many of those. But the E46 has been in an undeniable upswing, and it's literally kind of widely touted as one of the best cars ever as far as all-rounders. So
That's
why
true.
not have one as your fun car?
When mine worked,
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
when mine worked, it is something I am actively trying to replicate. The way that thing felt,
Yeah.
your proximity.
It feels they got it right. Somehow they got every aspect of it right.
Yeah.
It's for me, it was like your proximity to the rear wheels. As weird as it felt, I felt like I was close, and I felt like I had a connection to what they were doing, and everything. And this, the steering in them is phenomenal and everything. Like I said, it's a running joke that I bought one that was not in good shape, and then had whatever. But no, there's no denying how great these things are to drive. There's no denying that, a high revving V8 is a lot of fun. But there's something to be said for a high revving, naturally aspirated straight six that is making 100 horsepower per liter, if not a little bit more.
Yeah. And these are great. And we mentioned it on the S2000. Like literally, the M3 market as a whole is literally just 911 light.
Right.
Like it's you still have the appreciation, but it's just in a more affordable package essentially. So like if you want a 997 Porsche 911, and your budget is stretched for that, this is the perfect car for the budget that is not stretched, because you get driving dynamics similar to, not the same as, but similar to a Porsche, because you have a two-door. It's a heavier, obviously, but it's not rear engine. But you get driving dynamics that are similar because the driving dynamics are so good on this thing. You have appreciation there, exactly what the parameters asked for, and you have a package that is not going to be found again. Like, you're not there. An E46 M3 is not going to be made again. And speaking specifically about M3s, like, everyone keeps talking about, you go on any car journal, you read about the G80s and like, oh, they brought the M3 back. You know, the E90 was the V8 version and it wasn't great, but the F80 was even worse. It's not as good a driver's car. But then the G80 really brought it back to like where the E46 is. And, you know, that's cool. But this car won't exist again for sure. Like, that's something that's not going to happen. And naturally aspirated, high revving, V6.
Straight six.
In an M3. Straight six. In an M3. It's not... You know, it's not going to happen again because they're always going to have turbos now,
right?
Because that's just the reality. But like, this is if you can't buy a 997, get this, because it's going to do the same thing.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure you guys talked about. I don't know, something about the handling of this car too was just unbelievable. Even in straight Wichita, this was the first time I drove one. One of the first things I did with the guy who did it, he just goes, "Hey, dude," he just said, "Hey, put it sideways, leaving here." And I was like, "Dude, I don't." And I just did, and it was like, okay, and it was just so easy and controllable, and you just could. And I was like, well, you know, it's like the Grand Theft Auto perfect handling cheat. This thing just had that, but also it's fun, and like, this was back when, anyway, good car.
Yeah, my whole point when you stepped away was, if your stretch budget is a 997, this is the 997 to get, because it's not a 997. You're not stretching your budget. You can get this within that budget, and it's still going to appreciate it, because the M3 market is literally just 911 light. It's going to appreciate regardless.
Yeah, and there's no denying. This
is a great suggestion.
There's no denying. This is peak M3.
Oh yeah.
I love this list though, because I know we're going to switch to the next car, and I know I made the list, but I don't know what's coming up next, so I'm just as excited about it.
Yes.
You know, so
I love that.
I mean, well, this one, as far as an introduction,
speaking of,
is Greg, you've almost owned one of these. Subaru STI.
Ah, yes. Oh man, good one. And I like that you put different pictures in here, because there's a litany of.
I have no idea which one he was mentioning, so I was like, I'll just throw all of them in there.
I should have put a year range in there. Now, this one I had a tough time putting on there because of, well, the unreliability, I guess you could say. I want to address that first and foremost. And, you know, I grew up with friends having multiple of these, and none of the friends didn't go through an engine or multiple. You know, ringlands, seals, they're gone. Everything, and it was always the same thing. It's like, they're fine. The second you do so much as put an intake on them, they're like, all right, I can't. Like, so there's that. That being said, I specifically was kind of thinking 04 through 07, and I know that it changed from Blobeye to Hawkeye in the meantime, for anybody in the chat who gets specific about that. But that body style, like the one that's a Hawkeye on the screen right now, that body style to me was like peak STI. That was still, Colin McRae driving them, and everybody else. It was rally car for the street. We finally got them in the U.S. They're really cool in stock form, and if you can find a good clean stock one, which is the only reason this made this list, because all of these got modded to heck, motors blown, and then put away on some side lot. If you can find a good one that's clean, like an 04 through 07, that's not modded, which again, freaking golden goose right there. But
yeah,
they will appreciate. Like, you can look at what a stock one of those, even with almost 100,000 miles, if it's stock, they're selling for a lot. And like I said, it's still fun. It's not, like I said, I guess not exactly a sports car, But as far as willing to appreciate, probably, especially, as time goes on, as they keep getting further and further away from that, original rally car for the street formula. So
True.
there you go. I mean, I think we've all
This
had
is-
experience in them.
This is an interesting one because there is a shop here that we dyno our all-wheel drive cars at called Prime Motoring. It's in I don't know, Wallington, New Jersey. It's in Wallington, New Jersey, and I've dynoed this car and all of the Volvos that I've ever owned there. Chad dynoed a C30 there, and they're Subaru specialists. Like, they've done GTR stuff, they've done VW stuff, but like they build Subarus. That's their bread and butter. And they have like, I don't know if it's a partner or they just moved in next door and they happen to like Subarus, but it's called Gearbox New Jersey. They are now a Subaru sort of like dealer, but it's not like very well known yet. But they're finding like really interesting Subarus in the area, in the tri-state area. So they've had like a Legacy Spec B that's been a sedan Legacy Spec B. I think it's still for sale there, actually. Not sponsored. But they have that there. It's a manual, which is crazy rare for Spec Bs, especially in the States. So they find these really interesting cars, and I was wondering if I could like reach out to them and be like, look, this is something it's totally out there, because I've always harped on like, oh, E90 M3 F-Type or C6 Corvette or even another Vantage, but like this is a very interesting kind of thing, and this totally is like in my mind now at this point, where I wonder if we could find a clean GC8 body, 22 BY bodied it, and throw a modern EJ into it, because that price point. It's around the same price point as to like what we're looking at here for the other stuff. The 04 through 07 is interesting because it's stock. It's going to appreciate, and I know how fun these cars are because I owned a WRX, and it was this, fun, yeah. and it was the hatchback version, which is the least fun version of these things. So but the 04 through 07 specifically was like really the US sweet spot for these. The Blobeye Hawkeye. They're so good. They're tight. They're really well maintained. They got BBS wheels on them. They're fantastic cars.
Yeah, all right.
They got Brembos. Yeah, like they're just fantastic. And if you can find them like unmodified, like you said, like I mean they've been going up very linearly over the years, but because they're getting rarer and rarer, I feel like they are going to take off eventually, because that nostalgia is going to start to kick in the next 5 to 10 years.
Right. What we're experiencing right now with 90s cars, everybody that's finally has money, they can buy what they want. That's coming for kids that grew up lusting after 2004s and 05s. Now, given I lived through that, so I kind of knew, I'm like, well, guys, it's going to be, but it's still like these things stock. Given neither of my friends that had multiple of these left them alone. So that was their problem.
Yes.
Now we drove a whip before he started messing with it. I had my guy, he bought a second one, which I couldn't believe he bought back to back as if it was going to be a different car. We drove one from Fresno, California, all the way to Wichita, beating on it the entire way. We even hit the salt flats in it. Not exactly with permission, but we did. And just this, and it had zero, we had zero problems. And I mean, just flat out beating on it. The only time it started to have problems was we started going nuts with it.
Right.
So, like I said, they're good cars. I mean, stock.
Yes.
Let me keep saying stock. Because everyone's dream is, I'm going to have an 800 horsepower STI, and I'm like, not for long.
Yeah. And if you're going to build one, you need like a sleeved short block.
Yes.
That's the way to reliably have a like modified WRX or STI. You need to actually have like a built engine that's built for like 800 horsepower, but is only putting out 500. That's the way to reliably have a modded.
Which sounds like a nightmare of a modification community. It's like, I have to have this overbuilt car so that it doesn't break. I can't even actually get it to what it's rated for.
Yeah. Exactly.
I will say this, and I don't.
Now, Chet.
I don't know how much of this is true, but in my head, like, I would say that the general consensus would be that after like your GC8s, the Hawkeye is arguably the best looking STI. And I was just, I'd be curious if like, because I mean, actual real, because they're so rare and or what have you, actual 22Bs are going for ridiculously
insane
stupid money.
Yeah.
Just insanity.
Well, again, that's that nostalgia kicking in.
Well, right, but my point is that a situation where you might see a rising tide raising all ships, specific ships, or what have you, and I'm sure that there's going to be, you see it with like there's a pretty good Yugo market out there right now because it's like the anti-hero,
true.
right? So let's just say the hatchback, the people who are wrong on every level in like Subaru hatchbacks, or the blob eyes, or the first STI that we got, the Hawkeye, blob eye, dead eye, crazy eye. I have no idea.
Dead eye.
The blob eye was the first STI.
Lazy eye, whatever. Now there is Justin in the chat brought up a story that I guess this is the only time I'll ever be able to tell it because it's so random. But so back when I first went to college and you had to go to a million orientation stories. This is definitely relevant. Just trust me. I don't remember what portion of orientation it was. We were in this major auditorium. It's freshman year. I obviously don't know what's going on. I just know you have to go. And they're showing kind of a PowerPoint, and this girl's talking, and she's like, "Hi, I'm this person," and she shows a picture of her in like the passenger seat with like a helmet on, like clearly at an autocross event. And like I know because of my car autism that she's in an STI because I can see the seat. And after that, she proceeds to not talk about cars whatsoever. And I'm like, okay, so I kind of just tune out, but I'm still there. And she kind of at some point goes into her story and she goes, you know what, though? Because if you don't think about it, or she goes, blah, 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 something, that's a really good way to get yourself an STI. And I instantly was like, what is? And then I realized that's not what she was talking about. I'd never heard of them referred to as STIs. I'd only heard of STDs up until this point. And I thought from then on out, it was incredibly misleading that this girl's talking about STIs with a picture of her with a helmet on in an STI and saying, so-and-so is a good way to get yourself one of these. And I'm like, yeah, well, now I'm here. What's up? Is there like a competition? And yeah, so anyway, that was the time I
both
tuned out
affect
during
reliability.
that was the time I tuned out during a college thing, and a girl was talking about STIs while showing a picture of herself in an STI, but she was not talking about Subaru Technica International.
What's the line from Django Unchained? Is like, you had me interested, but now you have my attention.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, I snapped into it. I was like, there's a way in college to get yourself into an STI. And then I'm like, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, just go to
Funny,
Rutgers.
getting an STI is how she paid for getting an STI. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
So thank you, Justin, for triggering that story for me. Because I was like, oh yeah, that is